ahards are a key part of any conspiracy is itself really
preposterous. Or share screen. Here we go. We're going over taking a stand. What does it really mean to take a stand? We sometimes think of taking a stand is making a decision or making a decision for or against something, forming a resolution, or choosing a side. But in the talk you're about to hear, we distinguish taking a stand from any of these. As defined in this tape, it's a powerful way of being that can enable an individual to have an impact on the course of humanity. Taking a stand was the subject of a series of talks given in December 1982 in 9 U.S. cities. More than 20,000 people from all over the world attended these events, demonstrating a remarkable demand to discover what it takes to make a real difference in life. This audio tape is a condensation of those talks and conveys their essence. Ordinarily, when faced with a problem, we look for a solution. But when we address the vital question of how to make our lives really matter, we may need to find a new approach. Tonight is not about answers, and our society is crazy for answers. Everybody knows that our problems would be solved if somebody came up with the answer. What we look for, we listen for solutions, we look for solutions, we talk in solutions, we talk in answers. We're information crazy. It's kind of like being on a train, and the train is, if you look out the window, you can see the train going somewhere and it's got a destination, and other people are not looking out the window. Sitting in the sunlight, streaming through the window of the train, and people begin to take a look out the window at where the train is headed. Train is headed into a bad place, or at least in a less than optimal place. And people begin to hear that the train is going in a bad place. And they're wise enough to pay attention to the old proverb that says, we're likely to end up where we're headed. So I think that most of us are starting to wake up to the idea that if we don't change our direction, we're probably going to wind up where we're headed. But what are our options? What are our options? Well, somebody comes along and says, look, we've got this dilemma and you've got two choices. You can get on the left side of the train or the right side of the train. And I say the right way to get this train, the right side of the train. To be on this train to change direction is the left side. And everybody come over to the left side. And that's pretty much the way most people think. Oh, I'm on this side and you're on that side, and that's wrong and that isn't going to work. And we keep trying on the right side, and pretty soon we get the idea to being on the right side did not get this train to change directions. So everybody moved to the left side, and we try that for a number of years. And that doesn't get the train to change direction. We move back to the right side, and we've been doing that for quite a long time now, going back and forth, taking sides. And on one side or another, not really quite waking up to the fact that hasn't changed the direction of the train. We're still going where we're headed. What we need is a way to get out in front of the train, lay a little bit of new track, But you see, it's unthinkable to get out in front of the train. So people going from one side of the train to the other side of the train, and in the that's that going to make some difference. Yet if you begin to see that isn't making much difference. See, if somebody ran for office and they said, I think this is the only honest thing anybody could say, I don't know the answer for sure, you and I would not vote for him or her, and he or she would be crazy because he or she would not be elected. But the truth is, we don't have the answers. If we had the answers, the likelihood is that one of those last 90 or 450,000 people that we voted into office on the strength of that they had the answer would have had the answer. It's not likely that the last people promised that they had the answer. You see, questions are actually a lot more empowering to human beings, and questions, and I can show you why very simply. This is a little oversimplified, but it makes the point. Let's say this bottle of apple cider vinegar is the answer. See, everybody knows exactly where to focus their attention and in which direction to walk. I, for instance, know to focus my attention that way and walk in that direction. But I suppose rather than having somebody open up a question, and I have a commitment to living inside that question rather than getting to the answer, suddenly my attention is allowed to be free, to take a look around myself, to see what possibilities are, to see what opens up, to see what I can't see, to see what I haven't seen. And I'm free to explore and move around and check things out. And suddenly the world is opened up instead of closed down. So if that isn't the description, doesn't have a lot to do with talking about. So answers don't empower people, even though you and I think that they do. And built on a commitment of purely to answers, of a commitment purely to answer, is going to look like that. It's going to look like it's on the rails headed towards a disaster. And I'm going to look like fussing around inside the train for an answer about how to change direction. It's going to look like not being able to get out in front of the train, laying some new tracks. So tonight is not about answering questions, answering a question, about creating questions. It's about the power of questions and the power of living your life inside of a question where you are committed to the answer. And the answer, can you see what happens when your life out of a commitment to a question? What happens is that you get lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of answers. When you're committed to an open question, when you're committed to the question, answers are all over the place, and you really have a choice about which answer you're working on at the moment, and you're never stuck with an answer that you've got because your commitment is to find the answer, but your commitment is not to find the answer, but your commitment is living your life out of the question. So this is about questions. Now, there's one question on everybody's mind. It comes in lots of different forms, but the question is, will we survive? That's the question in everybody's mind. Will we survive? Sometimes saying about whatever it is they're trying to accomplish personally. Will I be able to accomplish it? That's another form of will we survive? People say it in regards to their enterprises. Will it fail or succeed? That's just the form of will we survive. People ask it in regard to nuclear weapons. Will we survive? And the answers are not good about nuclear weapons. If nobody ever decided to have a war, nuclear, I mean, let's accept that people are building nuclear weapons, not to have wars, even including those nations who have not. Let's assume they would want a nuclear weapon so that there wouldn't be any wars, and nobody wants a war. And the only reason we have nuclear weapons is not to have wars. And the more nuclear weapons we have, we won't have a war. Let's assume that's all true. There's something about probability of a mistake. See, if you take one opportunity and keep it alive for long enough, you get a very high probability of a mistake if there's only one opportunity. When I'm shooting pool, if I have to hit it right here and I hit it just 1 inch south of that, my mistake doubles to 2 inches of a mistake. If I'm off by 2 inches, it doubles into 4. And anyway, it doubles the mistake. Every little mistake you make, it doubles. If you take and multiply the numbers that you've got, the longer you keep those numbers going, particularly if the numbers are expanding, the probability of a mistake becomes enormous. So the question, will we survive, is a proliferation of nuclear weapons. And before the weapon strategies that are now in place, there was never any question about anybody being able to annihilate the world. That only came up in the last few years. Obviously, it was written in 1982. That is a different possibility than anybody has ever lived with before. You and I are not like any human being who has ever lived before coups. No human being has ever lived when there was a weapon system such as the one we got now. Never the ability to end the experiment called human being. Lay whatever you like. Lay wherever you like to call it what you want to call it. In the nature of God's hands, but never in our own. You are not like any human being who has ever lived. The question is, will we survive? And we don't have to do it with nuclear weapons. We could do it very easily economically. My buddy's been in countries where the question about survival, I mean, like whether you're going to die if there's a drought, the absolute certainty that 1 in every 5 children is going to die, absolutely certain. You should know that we could ruin this experiment called human being economically. See, that's not very real to people. So let me tell you a little story. Poland, Argentina, Mexico, and about 6 or 7 other countries have enormous external debt. I don't know what their status is now. Banks like 60, 70 million. The total product of their exports now, if somebody says the emperor has no clothes, if someone says those countries are not going to pay it back, those loans, the whole monetary system will come down. Now, these are countries who cannot pay the interest on those loans. Now, the banking system is a lot of paper, and a bank has a book, and there's a page on one side of the. If you have to take a multi-billion-dollar loan in a very large bank and move that multi-billion-dollar loan from one side of the page to the other side of the page, suddenly that bank is bankrupt. You see, banks owe a lot of money, an enormous amount of money to other banks. And as long as they can pay that money, nobody cares. Somebody says about Brazil, Poland, Mexico, or any, as a matter of fact, of one of those countries, the emperor has no clothes. Those people are not ever going to pay those loans back. And I want to know, it's nothing more than saying it. It's true now. They are not going to pay back the loans. And there isn't anybody in international finance who doesn't know that they're not going to pay those loans back. How the heck are they going to pay the loans back when they can't even pay the interest? They build up enormous loans during good times. These are bad times. So if the good times come back, they will get more loans, not pay off the old ones. Not pay the old loans off. If you pay the old loans off in good times, you don't have good times. Now, the banking system is very clever. So it doesn't just have two sides of the page, assets and liability. It's got something in the middle. The thing in the middle is called a non-performing asset. A non-performing asset is a loan in which you are still claiming you are going to get paid off on, but which is non-producing any interest. So it still stays kind of on the right side of the page. That is to say, you don't have to say to the other banks to whom you owe the money, we can't pay you the money. You don't have to say to your depositors, listen, we're bankrupt. So if you tell me, what do you think happens if you say to somebody who put their money in the bank that you're not liquid anymore? Remember, It's a Wonderful Life? What do you think would happen? All those people would go to the bank and say, here's my passbook, give me my money back. That's it. I don't want to do business with you anymore. That happened. That happened to a very large bank in the United States when the Polish debt came into question. And this bank was a major holder of that debt. Billions of dollars into all over the world, took their money out, put across the street. Why have your money in a bank that looks shaky when to the bank they put their money wires into, so we could go down the tub very, 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 very simple, very easily. I mean, no problem. We could go down. There's very easily, economically. I mean, real easy. Wouldn't be any problem to go down the tubes economically. We could do it environmentally. Doesn't take much, And right now, we can't afford to have much environmental protection. We're too deep in a hole and things are too terrible. And we can't get too worried about that at the moment. We have to pay attention to the moment. We can't worry about the long term. Wouldn't be very hard for us to destroy ourselves. I mean, environmentally, we could do it. With the topsoil we are now losing, we could do it by polluting the oceans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this questions, I'm going on and on a little bit. I want to rub our noses in it a little bit. And the fact that this question, will we survive, is a very legitimate question, of course. You already knew that, but I want to rub our noses in it a little. Rub our noses in it. So it's very legitimate. We have good people elect to work on this question. Will we survive? Working, elected to work. So we've got people working on the question, will we survive? And it's an important question. It's also a question which has never made any difference. Now, I didn't say it wasn't important. I said it didn't make any difference. A more question might be something, appropriate question, might be something like that. If we survive, then what? Suppose you and I don't die tomorrow. So what? Suppose your enterprise doesn't fall apart within the next year. Then what? Suppose things go well and we keep being viable. Then what if we do survive? So the question for tonight, and it's a question designed to out here, in which we can show up, in which something can show up. It's not a question designed to get an answer. This is not a question designed to get an answer. We talk about answering it, but it's not really designed to get an answer. It's designed to give some freedom in which to be, some freedom to look around, some freedom to experiment, freedom to move in. So the question is, does my life really matter? Very few people ask that question. Very often, people are always asking the question, will I survive? But almost never do you and I ask the question, does my life really matter? Do I make any difference? Does anything really make any difference? Is there such a thing as making a difference? So we're going to look at that question now. Not only we're going to look at that question, but we're going to look at it in a way that actually makes a difference. See, people have been asking the question, do I make any difference, in ways that haven't made a difference for a long time. Comes up a lot, but it never makes any difference. So